Welcome to RVing in New England, the nation's only forum that puts you on stage with some of the biggest names in the RV industry. And now your hosts, John DePietro and Bob Zagami.
Hey, there we are. I thought
Hello,
you went around the block and forgot to come up.
everyone. No, I'm here.
Here.
And we've got people that are calling us from California and Texas.
Already. That's great.
You know what? We call this show RVing in New England, but we really should call it RVing from New England because the content is valid all over the place. You know, there might be some, New England oriented content, but really for what we're going to talk about tonight, whether you live in Maine, Florida, New England, California, Ohio, it's all pertinent.
All important. Let's catch up with our sponsor real quick here, Lee's Auto and RV Ranch in Ellington, Connecticut.
RVing in New England is sponsored by our friends at Lee's Auto RV Ranch in Ellington, Connecticut. Conveniently located between Hartford, Connecticut and Sturbridge, Massachusetts, just off Route 84. Visit this family-owned dealership that sells new and pre-owned RVs, pre-owned pickup trucks for your new trailer or fifth wheel, and the latest in ATVs and powersports products. Now in their 28th year of serving outdoor enthusiasts throughout the Northeast, they offer a 28,000 square foot facility and a 50,000-pound Mohawk lift that can handle up to the largest diesel pusher motorhomes. Lee's also offers a full body shop and collision repair services. Visit Lee's Auto RV Ranch at 171 West Road, Ellington, Connecticut, or call them at 833-429-9397. Always on.
We want to thank Bob Zagami and NERVDA for inviting us to sponsor their fall into winter dealership sponsor program, and we want to introduce ourselves. This is Brian and the sales team here at Lee's Auto and RV Ranch. We want to welcome all the NERVDA members to come visit us and check out our great operation. We have a tremendous amount of inventory from small teardrops to Class A motorhomes. And also we want to introduce you to our service department where we do full mechanical repair and body work, floors, paint work, custom paint work on anything from Class A diesel pushers to small motorhomes. We want to invite everybody down to come say hello. We're family owned and operated. We're here to help you and serve.
All right.
And you know what, Bob?
Yeah. What?
It's nice to have a computer voice on our show.
Yeah, we added her to the team.
It's amazing. They have male computer voices, female computer voices. They have generic computer voices, whatever. But you know what? We want to thank our friends at Lee's because, like Brian said, they really have it all. Whether it's motorized, whether it's towable, and whether it's something to tow your towable. Say that 5 times fast. You'll find it at Lee's.
They do a great job. Well, we got a bunch of people wanting to get on. They understand this is their show tonight.
Right.
So pick out somebody or something and kick it off.
Well, Eric Tuller, how do we know Eric?
Is he in Indiana?
No, he's in California. Right now, he's in Coarse Gold, California.
I don't know.
Eric, tell us how we know you.
Refresh
I know you're a friend of the show. And we have the Hawes family coming from Texas saying, good evening, gentlemen. Jerry Plant, I'm going to talk about Jerry in just a minute. Hello from Cape Cod. Jim Conboy, New England RV Roof. Walter Swenson. Walter, you're kind of extending that trip. How long are you in Florida for, Walter?
Well, he's here for the year, but he's going back for a little while, too.
Oh, he's there for the whole season?
Yeah, I think this was his inaugural, his first trip of the year for here.
Okay, but breaking news. Walter Swenson, I hope you're okay. Walter Swenson, I hope you know that your record of making it from New England to Florida was not just broken, but was shattered this past weekend. And you're now in a distant second place. Mr. Zagami, you want to tell us about your trip?
Well, we made our trip down to Florida, and I brought some more stuff from Massachusetts down, and we were going to take 4 or 5 days to enjoy the trip and take our time. So we left Old Orchard Beach at 2:00 Saturday afternoon.
1
I was
o'clock.
thinking about Walter, but I wasn't thinking about breaking any records or trying to outdo him. But we just drove, and about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, we stopped at the Vince Lombardi rest area, tried to get a hotel room. There was nothing around under $500. And so I said, well, we'll just drive some more. So we drove a couple more hours to Trenton and pulled into a rest area to just, catch a little nap, and which my wife and I never do. And we stayed there about 2 hours and watched the stars and the 18-wheelers come pushing in and out. And finally at 2:00, I said, what the hell with this? I'm just going to start the car up and drive.
So you never got to sleep?
No, I probably got an hour off and on. So then at 2:00 in the morning, have now 12 hours from when we left the 2 on Saturday, we left, started driving south on 95 through Delaware, through Maryland, through the Washington, D.C. area, into Virginia. I'm saying, the hell? And I'm still driving. It's like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Sun's come up. We've gone through the whole night, and I'm still driving. I'm awake. I'm not endangering myself or my wife. We were just driving. It just
Wait. You've been up for 26, 28 hours.
No, at that point, 2 and at 8 in the morning would have been another 6, 12, 18. Yeah, probably in the 18 to 20 hour range.
Okay. You're not endangering your wife. Luckily, she was asleep.
No, she was playing her Scrabble game, and so we kept going, and we were going to try to meet up with some friends in Virginia.
And you're also towing a trailer.
Also towing a U-Haul trailer, okay. And so we couldn't connect with our friends. So we said, well, we'll just drive a little bit further. So we kept driving, and about I'm going to say about 4 in the afternoon, May looks at the GPS. Now, keep in mind, this is since 2:00 Saturday afternoon. She looks at the GPS and she says, well, it's only 9 or 10 more hours to Ave Maria.
As you are driving.
Right. Why don't we just drive through?
Yeah.
So we did.
Hold on. Before we do that, we have to say that you committed a mortal sin when it comes to traveling. You stopped at a Buc-ee's and didn't go in and get a chipped beef, barbecued beef, or barbecued turkey sandwich.
But I did
How
feel
could you do that?
Well, because we were going to meet this other couple further down on 95. So I got gas.
You had a refrigerator with you.
Huh? Well, yeah.
You had that refrigerator.
I didn't think about that. I had the new Truma freezer cooler. I should have brought you along to remind me. So anyhow, we went through down 95, through Jacksonville, through Orlando and Tampa, where we saw a lot of sand and water damage on the highways.
You drove by at least 2 campers inns on the way around Jacksonville, right?
Jacksonville, I hit them both. Yeah. And, but it wasn't disastrous, but they had so many people working on it that on I-4, which goes around to Orlando, I think it goes up to 5 or 6 lanes. They had everybody down to 1 lane at like 12 at night. But anyhow, we pulled into the driveway at 1:00 in the morning. So the grand totals, I don't believe them either, but I did them. We were on the road for 35 hours straight. I drove for 24 of those 35 hours. So there, take that, Walter Swenson.
Yeah, Walter's very impressed. I think he's insane. Impressed, insane. Okay.
We figured it out. We're not going to tell our girls what Dad and Mom did, because they'd call up the mental hospital and say, "You got to take this guy away. He's really lost it now. He's really
take
lost
him away."
it."
And your wife agreed with you to do it. Now,
she actually loved it and said, "This wasn't bad. Maybe we'll do this next year."
Okay.
Yeah, so you didn't drive. I drove.
Now, we haven't told our audience what we're going to talk about tonight, but the point is we're going to talk about some of the damage that may have incurred in South Carolina and Florida with the RV parks. So to get right to the topic, I want to ask you drove through Orlando, you drove through Fort Myers, and you're near Naples.
Right.
Now, devastation within a restricted period of time, and the vast majority of it, you'd never know anything happened. Tell us what category.
You would never know. 98% of Florida is open, and there was water damage and sand in places like Sebring, Altamari Springs, that Tampa area, but it was not totally destructive. It was just a one-day delay, clean up the sand and go back to business. We have not been over to Fort Myers Beach or Naples yet, but in an interview I did with Bobby Conwell, is president and CEO of the Florida RV Campground Association, there was only 6 or 10 campgrounds in the affected area that were totally destroyed. There are 60 to 70 in that same area. So although it's tragic and it's unbelievable what happened in Sanibel Island, parts of Naples, and Fort Myers Beach. Fort Myers Beach was wiped out. Sanibel Island is completely gone. They're just building the causeway and getting the causeway back up over there. But it is so destructive. But it's only, there's 750 campgrounds in Florida, campgrounds and RV parks. So let's say 10 of them were destroyed. Okay. So Bobby wanted to get the word out that if you're a snowbird or you're thinking about going to Disney, you're thinking about going camping at Fort Wilderness, come on down. Come on down. It's business as usual. Yeah.
Now, another thing, this is kind of crazy because as you headed south, Myrtle Beach, you hit first before you hit, although you would have had to veer 100 miles off of 95 to hit Myrtle. You've got a hurricane that went across the state of Florida and up the Atlantic coast and then back in Charleston, Myrtle Beach area. Now, right behind me, you see the Carolina Pines campground where I stayed this summer. Look at, I'll show it to you even better. Anyway, it's 10 miles, 8 miles, excuse me, from the Myrtle Beach waterfront. And they didn't have any damage whatsoever. So just in a 10-mile period there, that is a marvelous park. If you like mega parks, that's a park to go to. Carolina Pines. It's run by our friends at Blue Water Development. It is a phenomenal, absolutely great park. You're not on the water, but there's everything there. You can see the pools. You can see the giant water slide there, the pools right there, everything imaginable. But they didn't close it all.
I do want to say one other thing. John was very concerned about me driving that way. So he would call me every 5 or 6 hours. He'd plead with me, please take a hotel room and crash. You got to, he'd tell me I'm out of my mind and what have you. I think he was just afraid of this show going to a solo and he'd have to do a solo show for the rest of his life if something happened. So I assured him nothing would happen and I would be right here where I should be on Wednesday night. But it was kind of ironic.
Okay.
But you don't typically see us old guys doing stuff like that.
Right, exactly. So let's see what our friends have said about Walter. Walter said Fort Myers Beach is demolished. Fort Wilderness has openings right now through the end of the month. Jerry, and we're going to talk about Jerry in just a minute. I could do that in my 20s. We'd leave San Francisco at 1 PM and drive straight through that night. And the next day, our first overnight was in Nebraska.
From San Francisco to Nebraska?
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Now, the other thing that we're talking about on this show, in addition to Myrtle Beach in Florida, is a transitional period that we're in right now. Today, it was 75 degrees. Tomorrow, it could be 45 degrees, at least in the Northeast. And you got 95-degree weather in Florida. However,
95 and humid, yeah.
Yep. And I want to thank our friend Ryan Hadley, who's just joined us right now, and Tim's from Tim's RV, saying hugs and kisses to all. However, here's one thing to keep in mind, folks. When you are winterizing, the thing you need to keep in mind, and I know Jerry's going to give, right, Jerry, you're going to do some winterizing seminars this weekend.
Yep.
Actually, every Saturday in October, down at Major's RV. I was down there last week, talked with Jeff and Jill and David and the whole crew. And one thing I learned is this: when you're winterizing, don't just worry about frozen pipes, but you need to worry about an even bigger culprit, and that's mold and mildew. So there are several products that I purchased down at Major's this week that will help with that, whether your unit is down south up north, indoors or outdoors, mold and mildew. And that's going to be an issue for Floridians that don't have electricity yet, that even though their building might have been spared structural damage, that mold and mildew in that 90-degree weather is going to begin soon. So
yeah,
anyway.
in the affected areas, they're just bulldozing everything. The friends that we were going to meet for lunch, they were heading back from Fort Myers. Their house, they lost everything. The house was destroyed, and they were going back to Pennsylvania to visit relatives and then try to figure out what to do. But she said they're just going to take a bulldozer. I already told them, bulldozer coming through, because you said the mold and everything that would be impacting the house, you couldn't live in it anyways. It's, and the sad part, especially with people who are familiar with Florida, this is not come down next year. Everything will be okay, so come down next year. I mean, I think you're looking at 5 or 10 years of work. Now they're doing absolutely amazing. They actually got the Sanibel Causeway opened up yesterday for the emergency trucks and the electrical trucks to head over there, and it's open to the public, so the people who lost everything can start going over on the 21st of October to try to see if there's anything salvageable over there.
Yep.
But
they probably don't want to make that too public, because the looters can go over there.
Well, they have a very simple rule in Florida, and the sheriff has been on TV every night, and he says, I want to make sure you understand, if you loot, we will shoot. It's a very simple message. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to try to remember. You don't have to write it down. They said our residents protect themselves under the Second Amendment. So if you Michael DePietro's on. Michael, I can't stay on because I'm in New York.
What does that mean?
What the hell's that? Yeah, that's your problem, not ours. Michael, by the way, the Daytona track was underwater, a lot of water. The whole infield, because the Daytona track sinks down into the ground. They didn't build it at ground level. They built it down so the stands wouldn't go up so high. But that was totally flooded. I think there was something like 8 feet. And that was Daytona. But that side got hit just as bad, but not with the destruction. It didn't hang over Daytona and Jacksonville as long as it did on the West Coast. That's for sure.
There's no more races this year at Daytona, I believe.
No, I don't think so.
Right,
no.
Not till February.
Right.
But fail to spend time to properly feel when building. Well, you know what, Tim, you're right with that.
Mr. Christensen says mold and mildew is because too many manufacturers failed. That you were saying the same thing. Properly seal when building. Yeah, that's a big issue.
Well, you know what, and even without that, you're not going to find anything that's airproof by any means.
Hey, can you explain your brother?
No.
Do you want to try to explain your brother?
He's not explainable.
Well, look at this. He says,
I'm still waiting for that Todd Emerson interview.
Right. I'll be back with my interviews in February. This is October.
Right.
Is the guy taking a rocket ship to the moon or something for 4 or 5? What the hell's he doing?
No, but if you recall back in April, he said, I'm going to go to Stafford Speedway.
Right.
Where our friends at Longview are the official, the official sponsor, one of the partners for Stafford Motor Speedway. And we said, we'll be excited. We'll be able to get interviews and go down there and do the show on Wednesday night if they have a Wednesday night thing. And he just disappeared.
Yeah, Walt has a good point. I didn't mean to imply that it would be 5 or 10 years before Daytona comes back. It'll be before they can rebuild totally Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach. But yeah, Daytona is already working on the stuff, and they'll have that track open in 3 or 4 more weeks. And again, the damage on the east side was much more palatable and easy to work on. So they're into that right away.
Yeah.
Frank Case is with us, listening in from the beautiful Eastern Shore, north of Boston. Was in southern New Hampshire, Hampton State Park today. They said they still have openings until 10/29. I think there are a lot of, I've posted a lot of campgrounds that have openings coming up on their last weekends and stuff. So yeah, if you didn't camp enough this year, and check it out, because there's plenty of campgrounds with openings. Yeah.
Hey, another thing, we were talking about February with Daytona, but before February, one of the big events that takes place that we want to give you the exact dates for is January
13 to 16.
13 through 16, the Boston RV and Camping Expo. And I don't care what anyone says. Zagami and I have been to shows all over the country, and that Boston show is one of the best run shows. And it's really a great event because, you know, when we started moving to that Boston show, what is it, 6-7 years ago, Bob? You had the BCEC, the Expo Center, then you had the Seaport hotels and nothing else.
Okay.
Now when you come out of that tunnel, and
Yep.
there are hotels everywhere.
Yeah, it's like another planet. But yeah, we hooked up with Paragon. Paragon took over the show. They own the show. They produce the show. We're the major sponsor of the show. But that was 2013 that we did our first show. So this year actually is our 10th anniversary of our relationship with Paragon Group. And to your point, the thing that manufacturers love and the dealers love, that's an expensive show to put on because it's in Boston's most expensive real estate area. Yep. So the dealers are very specific about what they bring in and the quality of the audience, because it can be an expensive event for families to go there, but they spend it, and they spend it every year. They'll go there instead of going to another show that may be free of charge or have free parking or have lousy hot dogs, because it's every manufacturer that works that show. Manufacturer rep comes out and says, I want to work this show every year. There are no tire kickers at the Boston show.
Right. And one of the things that we like best about the Boston show is that those RV manufacturers come there, usually take us out to dinner at very expensive restaurants 1 or 2 nights.
That's right.
So from a selfish point of view, Kevin Horkey, we're looking forward to having steak on you. In January.
He's got to have a new boss or something with this year, because Matt Zimmerman's moved up and been promoted. So see, if you're seen in Boston having dinner with Zagami and DePietro,
you go right up the corporate ladder.
Right at the corporate ladder. It wasn't 2 months after he left here and bought us a beautiful dinner, steak dinner at Del Frisco's. 2 months after that, the guy gets promoted. So Horkey, I don't know who your new boss is, but you better bring
him or her along.
Yeah.
Tim says Chef Boyardee is cheap. Tim, I only use that and I microwave it in the microwave at the hotel for breakfast, because they have Chef Breakfast RD now, which is basically eggs and bacon and pork rinds. So we do that.
Where do you do your shopping that you would find something like that?
Oh, it's just
the Rhode Island job
dynamite stuff. Okay, so Frank Hates, he's in New Hampton. Tom Zabrowski says, hello. Walter says, Sanford, Florida. Now, the interesting part about Sanford, Florida is that that's where the auto train terminates, right just north of Orlando. Tolls are still waived on Central Florida roadways, okay? So Jim Conboy says, Boston's a great show. We'll be there. I still get business from the 2018 show.
I want to go back to Sanford for a minute. We've had the mobile internet people, Chris and Cherie, on the show before. They've kind of gone, they go full-time on an RV, and then they get a Class B, and they also have a boat. And the boat happens to be in Sanford. And they chose not to abandon port because it's on the St. Johns River, and everything on the St. Johns River is flooded. So they posted yesterday again, that river may just be starting to crest at 8 feet. It only went down a couple of tenths of an inch, but they feel that it may be, and it showed them walking through the town with their high water boots, but they're down, they stuck it out and have survived and doing all their programming and broadcasting. But
having fun with the snakes. That's interesting.
Yeah. Anything on the St. Johns River, there was a lot of flooding.
Look at Walter. Crest is expected tomorrow at 9 feet. Walter, where do you get this info? What are you doing? Are you Googling everything when we bring up a topic? Walter Googles it. We love Walter and Donna. We love those guys. And Walter, I hope you're wearing your RV Life shirt that we brought back to you directly from Hershey.
Mm-hmm.
Weather alerts every 4 hours still. Crest is expected. The other thing we want to talk about, Bob, is this. Should we take our break first or go right into it? What do you want to do?
No, go into the next one. Yeah, because we
Okay.
went long
So
in the beginning. Yeah.
there's another thing that people have been talking about, because as the RV industry consolidates on the retailer level, not as much on the manufacturer level, although there is consolidation within the manufacturer level, which is natural in any business. Okay. In any business category, you're always going to see a large number of people turn into a smaller number of people as some of the smaller ones who've run a good show become attractive to the larger ones. So anyway, but the difference between the mega dealers and the independent smaller dealers. Now, Bob, why don't you mention what you consider the big five when it comes to mega dealers?
The big five, and it's pretty much universal across the country when we talk about the impact of consolidators. But you've got Camping World, you've got Campers Inn, you've got Lazy Days, you've got RV1, you got General RV. And those are the big consolidators. The two biggest are in Camping World and RV1, who've gobbled up a lot of the independent dealers. So I used to have a bad habit, not many, but one was throughout my career, I've often talked about the smaller dealers as mom and pop dealers. Now, 30 years
There's
ago,
kind of a connotation that they don't even have computers.
exactly, and 20 years ago, but that was kind of a familiar term. So we have a concerted effort in emerging others in the industry. We want to talk about mega dealers, and that's fine to talk about them because they're members of NERVDA also. They have locations in New England. Some people like to work with the bigger stores, but we also have independent dealers. And our independent dealers may have one facility like Brad Moore, but it's a very well-run facility. It's been there for 60 years. People don't come and go and leave all the time. Pete's,
Arlington.
Pete's is an independent dealer, and he's got 9 locations, 3 in New England, but he's got 6 outside New England. And so we're going to talk about independent dealers and versus mega dealers. And of those mega dealers, Campers Inn is still family owned business, even though they got 36 locations. That's still considered, and they are. They're over 56 years old now. That's a mega dealer, but they have one single ownership with the Hirsch family. But Camping World is public. Lazy Days is public. RV1 isn't yet, but they're on a track, and you have to believe it won't be too long before, depending on how the economy goes and when it's financially favorable for them to go that way. But I think they purchased 170 dealerships. So our show, we focus on both. I mean, Campers Inn is a big exhibitor in our show, but we love the independent dealers because they can compete very nicely in terms of service and support. So all comers are welcome to the Boston show. And speaking about that, this year we have had more interest from the dealers throughout New England than we've probably had, I'd say, in 10 years. Because
why would you say that's true?
Well, I think the tide is changing, and I think the consumers are getting back into the driver's seat. Let's be realistic. For the last 2 years, there were very few discounts on RVs. They didn't have to discount. They were selling everything that came on the lot. Most of them did not have large inventories, and in many cases, the units that came in were pre-sold. Our Airstream dealers, of which we've got Pete's, we got Airstream of New Hampshire, Airstream of Maine, and we got Mercedes-Benz of Scarborough. Those 4 places, for a big part of the last 2 years, couldn't get inventory, didn't have inventory. So now that they have full lots, and if you've been driving around, and Walter will testify because he would have seen the same ones that I saw coming south. You hit Georgetown or Fredericksburg, Virginia, and you start looking up, and they're just lined on both sides of the highway. The RV1s, the Campers Inn, the Camping Worlds, the Lazy Day. Oh yeah, they have pulled every spot on their lot. Yeah. And now you get towards the end of the year, so they've got to sell them. So we're seeing some really big and great sales right here in New England from our dealers who are saying, "Hey, we've got to get these units off the lot so we can buy new ones for the 2023 season."
Right. And rather than us ramble on for another half hour, why don't we do this? Why don't we ask our audience to tell us, do you like dealing with a big dealer, or do you like dealing with a smaller dealer? And how far will you go from your home base to buy? So you can type in your answers down here. We're going to play this commercial. And when we come back with more of RVing from, we just changed the name of the show, RVing from New England, right after these words from our friends at Lee's. And Bob, that's a cue for you to hit the button.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing, I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it. Yeah.
Everyone knows the end of season is the best time to buy an RV. Do it at Lee's RV in Ellington, where there's no shortage of new and pre-owned units. Lee's has more travel trailers, toy haulers, fifth wheels, mini motorhomes, and ultra lightweight teardrops. Plus, they're all on sale and ready for immediate delivery. Be camping this weekend. Everyone loves Lee's because they are family owned. Deal direct with the owners with no corporate red tape. Lee's Auto and RV Ranch in Ellington. On the web, it's leesautoandrv.com.
How's that?
So you got to make a note so we don't get the echo next time.
Did you? I didn't get an echo, but I heard I heard two beeps along the way. So I don't know.
Let's ask our audience, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Did you hear an echo during that commercial break?
Yeah, let us know if you did in fact hear the echo. All right, what else do we have on comments coming in handy?
We bought our RV private party.
I don't know what Ed's referring to. Ed says you did well in maybe he means when we were both in the document imaging industry, I think. And we were in fact an independent, but eventually near the end, I did sell the company to a consolidator, and we went through the same thing as you're seeing in the RV industry. We went through that in the imaging industry 15, 20 years ago. Walter Swenson, our man of authority, smaller dealer. We bought from Northwood RV at 105, Northwood RV at 105 miles from home.
In New Hampshire.
Combines in Hershey.
I've never heard of
before they were bought by CW. Yeah, people, it's an interesting thing about the RV industry, and I always say that to our independent dealers. I wrote an article once, and one of my comments was every dealer should wake up in the morning and hope that a mega dealer builds a building across the street. And they say, "What are you, out of your mind? I don't want a Campers Inn or Camping World or Lazy Days." Yes, you do, because they are going to draw an incredible amount of traffic because they've got such big facilities and big overhead. They have to advertise a lot. They have to have a lot of sales. And those people are going to come down that road, even though they were going to a mega dealer, they're going to stop in the independent dealer. Well, let's see what, Bradford has down the street, or let's see what Mann's RV has in Rutland, Mass, or let's see what Lee's Auto and, they may be going between the mega dealer in Massachusetts and one in Connecticut and say, well, you know what? What about that company that advertises on RVing in New England, Lee's Auto? Let's go down and see Brian and his people, see what they got. And you'd be amazed. The layout, the number of units. So there's no right or wrong answer to it, and not one is better than the other. But it's personal taste.
Yep, exactly. So that's what we bought one at Mann's, just driving by after a soccer game. Wow. Well, and that's the thing. You know what? When you're an RVer and you're hooked on the lifestyle, a lot of people change what their drive is. Whether it's motorized or travel trailer, at a time that they're not expecting it, but they see something that has got a feature to it, and the dealer is someone easy to work with, so it does make a difference from that.
Let's talk about features a little bit, because as most of you know, I tested positive for COVID a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't go out to the dealer open house, but John was nice enough to go out and spend 3 or 4 days talking to people. What was the impression of the dealers in looking at the new items that we'll have at the Boston show? What was your general sense of the atmosphere?
Interesting. A lot, when you look at most of the units, whether it's from the giant displays that Thor had that included Tiffin this year and Airstream, et cetera, many of the new innovations are not in the exterior, but interior-wise, and a lot of it has to do with battery power. A lot of it has to do with technology. A lot of it has to do with solar being built in. A lot of it has to do with Truma-type appliances, whether it be water heaters, whether it be more quiet and efficient air conditioners. And a lot of the units are turning to all electric with no generator on them at all. So as long as these are phased in, then the dealers are happy. But the dealers that I saw out there, and I saw several, all had smiles on their faces, which means these new products are going to be available, ironically, at the Boston show. And it'll be really the first time that people get a chance to see the new 2023 models, because there's no major shows between now and the end of the year.
No, and I think that this year's Boston show is going to be an incredible sales event, because we're going to get back into that significant discount. A lot of people go to an RV show to buy a product, and they know that they can negotiate with different dealers. They know they can see the best of what's out there. But when I look at the number of dealers that want to be in the show this year, and the number of new products that were introduced, it's interesting, because there was a lot of speculation prior to dealer open house that there would not be a lot of innovation, that they perhaps because they see a little bit of a downturn in the economy, that they might just make some cosmetic changes. But no, there was some really beautiful products coming off those lots, and the dealers are going to have a lot of different things. It's going to be very interesting, and one that we're getting a lot of attention on, and we may have something special to announce for you on it a little bit later. But Gary and I have been working on a couple of new ideas for the show. But Class Bs have really come into their own, and the reason you can tell was that at open house, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but Thor introduced 5 new Class B motorhomes. They already had a ton of them, but they brought out, 2 more Class Bs. They brought their 5 new motorhomes in general, but they brought out 2 more Class Bs, and basically they were other brands, the other nameplates. They just changed the nameplate because they have so many dealers that want to have Class B motorhomes now, whereas if we go back 5 years or so, they didn't want to touch them, and now every dealer has to have a Class
Crowley
B
was one.
So they're going to
Crowley
put
was one of the only ones that had a lot of Class Bs. They had the Road Treks, and they had some Winnebago products. But now when you look at the shows, it used to be A's and then C's, or should be towables, then A's, then C's, and maybe you'd see a B here and there. But that's changed. Now, one thing that's very important here is one of the new ones that I got to take a tour of, and I know I have the video here somewhere, but it's the new Solus by Winnebago. And it's basically a Travato with a roof that pops open. But the roof not only pops open, there's a double bed up there, Bob. There's a double bed, there's lighting, there's USB plugs, and, you can now carry 4 people in that very easily, because you got the 2 driver seats up front, and then you've got 2 seat-belted seats in the back. So come evening time, you put the major bed down, and then you've got a little foldable ladder that goes up top. And it's on a Dodge ProMaster chassis, so it can be parked in a regular parking space. And, there's fuel economy, and I think it's going to take off. It's the National Parks Edition. Our friend Russ Garfin showed that to us, and it's a pretty cool product. But then what was the other one? Colonial, what is it?
Airstream range
Airstream range line.
Yeah.
There's a very similar product that came out. So
there were new park models, park model homes, which is 60, 70 years, 70th anniversary.
Yep, the
70
Eldorado.
years ago, they had a manufactured home kind. They didn't call them park models back then. It was named the Eldorado, and they wanted to bring back that nameplate, so they introduced 3 completely new and different park model homes. And I know Kenny Blow up at Seacoast can't wait to get them in, because their elevation.
Yeah, we saw Kenny down there, and he had his name on 3 or 4 of them down there that they were going to get hooked up and come right up to New England.
That,
And another company that's making inroads in the industry is Elevation, which is also available up at Seacoast. And they make, I'm telling you, when you go into these park models, I'm folks, if I didn't have Wanderlust and, I can't sit in one place for a long period of time. I believe that park models are the best value for a second home anywhere, for seasonal second home. And, we bought our house on Cape Cod 1990. What is it, 30 years ago? And we paid 117 for it. So now it's about 500 grand. However, you can buy a very nicely appointed park model for under 100 grand. I mean, you got to find land for it, but I'm telling you, full-size refrigerators, full-size dishwashers, full-size bathrooms, full-size beds, full-size TVs, real furniture, not fold-up furniture. And, if you do like you did, you've got a screen room and another additional room. And how many square feet do you have in yours when you all told?
400 in the park model, 400 in the sunroom, and 400 on the deck. So you get 1,200. You know what else was popular? I saw all kinds of reports coming in, single axle trailers, because what has happened over that last 2 years, prices inched up because the dealers had no control over it. There was material shortages, there was supply chain shortages, and every time they got an invoice from a manufacturer, the price went up. So we were in danger of pricing the entry level buyers out of the marketplace. So most of the manufacturers have responded quickly. And
now you say that, Bob. And when I went to the Grand Design display, they've got their Momentums and their, all the other models that they have that are high-end units. But the one that they were pushing the most, Don Clark's son, Austin, and Don Clark, the president, and one of the owners, the original co-founders of Grand Design, they were so excited with this 18-foot single axle trailer, which I found rather interesting because they had the $100,000 unit over on one side, and then I think that sold for in the 20s.
Well, there was a lot of Flagstaff, there was a lot of Rockwoods in that, a lot of the Forest River products. Ember, Ashley Bontrager, who had history with her grandfather in the formation of Jayco, but Ashley started a new company called Ember. And I just sent them another note the other day because I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have Ember products in the show, but they have not yet appointed a dealer in New England. I got a pretty good idea on who it's going to be because they've got some other locations in the country, but there are a lot of new products in that range. So it's going to allow us to keep that new first-time buyer. And a lot of that one that you showed on the video that you did with the Grand Design, didn't that have bunk beds in the back and like a Murphy bed in the front?
It did. It had, interestingly, two good size. They weren't what I call the stretcher.
Right,
bunks.
they weren't the little twins. Yeah.
They were like a bed and a half. So if you had two young kids, you could put them in there. Two teenagers, no, but two kids, 4 or 5 years old, you could do that real easily. And the Murphy bed in front, so it gets put away during the day, and it's got a couch below it and a large size TV. And I think even has, if I recall, I did so many interviews that week, the propane hookup outside where you can put one of those Blackstone or Greystone or whatever the brand is, propane grills outside. And I think all of our friends here would realize and agree with us that eating inside an RV is not as cool as cooking outside and
Absolutely not.
eating outside. And I just want to take a little poll.
What's that?
I think, tell me if you agree with me or not. When you're getting up early at a campground, would you agree with me that one of the coolest smells or aromas that you can ever experience is the smell of bacon being grilled outside? You agree with me on that or not? Just say bacon, yay for bacon, something like that.
After I smell my third cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right. All right. While they're thinking about that, I do want to talk about another item that is not a consumer item, but it's something that I want you to understand because I consider it to be one of the most important things in our business. RVDA, the national, don't try to read this, I'm going to blow up another section for you. But RVDA has the dealer satisfaction index every year. And the winners are announced early, like around now, but they present the awards at the RVDA convention. And dealers vote on the companies they do business with. They vote on reliability and quality, parts availability, warranty, and the sales process, sales training, sales initiative, and what have you. And this year, so I wanted to blow this up for you on the motorized. Now, what this means is hopefully the dealers that win these awards, and I know most of them do, will have them on display in the dealer showroom. So when you go into the dealer showrooms to look at various different models, you want to see if they have any DSI awards for that particular manufacturer, because the manufacturer will provide information about their success to their dealers. Now, in the motorized category, awards are going to Airstream for their Class B, Class C, Dynamax, all their products, Integra, Gulfstream Coach, Jayco, Leisure Travel Vans, Triple E, Newmar, Pleasureway, and Winnebago for all of their Class A's, B's, and C's. So what this means is the dealers submitted evaluations on the manufacturers they deal with. Over 539 dealerships participated, and they had almost 3,000 brand ratings for them. On the towable side, a little bit more, but there's more towables. Towables are 80% of our industry, motorized is 20%. So they had Airstream, Alliance RV with their products, DRV Mobile Suites, Dutchman, East to West, the Alta brand, Forest River cleaned up with the Flagstaff, Fifth Wheels Travel Trailers, Shamrock Expandables, Rockwood Travel Trailers, Fifth Wheels, Rue Expandables, Sandpiper, Sierra, Cedar Creek, Riverstone. Grand Design got it for everything except the new one, Imagine, Momentum, Reflection, Solitude, Transcend. That's their entire product line. Keystone with the Cougar, Montana, High Country Raptor, Carbon, Cougar and Montana, represented by our friend Kevin Horkey, who's going to take John and I out to dinner at the Boston.
He doesn't know it yet.
Right, if he's watching, he will. KZRV with Durango Gold, Venom and B Series, StarCraft, and Venture RV. So if you're looking at those particular models, you're looking at some of the brands that the dealers themselves feel provide the best value for their customers. It's reflected in the customers that buy them and how many complaints or lack of complaints. But that I consider that to be one of the most important jobs of a dealer every year, is to participate in that program and let the industry know what they like and in some cases what they don't like. It's a good way for the customers to see what's going on.
Yep, exactly. We want to let Walter know that we appreciate that. Airstream, the new B van, the Range line. I did an interview with them for our other show, I think. Yep. But it's really cool. It's a very similar product. Now, Frank Haight says single axle units bounce around on the road. Yeah, that's true. That's fine for entry level to travel closer to home, but long distance, not so much. And maybe entry level people do travel closer to home.
But that's the whole point, Frank. You have to have something that fits all aspects. We have demographics, everything from 19-year-old kids getting out of high school, buying a Class B van and taking off around the country, to mature people who want to buy a luxury 45-foot diesel pusher. And what was happening in the industry with COVID, as the prices continued to escalate, because the fact of the matter is that the trailer that you could have bought for $25,000 2 years ago isn't $25,000 anymore. It's $35,000. So what are you going to replace it with? Well, they had to take a step back, make the single axle, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people that buy travel trailers in that range, they may only go camping twice a year, but they want it in the backyard. They want it for that long weekend, and they may go a couple of weekends in 1 week. It's perfect for what they do. No, it's not available. It's not something for a full timer, and it's not something that we'd ever recommend you take out to California and back either.
Okay, so Bob, let's look at a couple of these comments here. We were talking earlier about mega dealers versus independent dealers. And I think Tim's RV in Irving would qualify as an independent dealer. Now, here's one thing to keep in mind. Tim is a regular here every week on the show. He always has something to contribute. But Tim is the owner. So when you go into Tim's, you're going to deal with the owner. And you're not going to get to talk to the owner at a large place. Now, Tim may not have the wide selection, but Tim does not try to be something for everyone.
Well, Tim's got a very nice philosophy.
He's got a niche.
He's got a niche. He's got the Intech brand. In his this is all. I love to tell this story, and you probably heard it before, but people look at the mega deal and say, well, they must be the tops in the country, or they must be the biggest, or they must sell a ton of stuff. It's not always true. Old Tim out there in Irving, Mass, happens to be the number 4 Intech dealer in the entire country, out in the middle of nowhere on the Mohawk Trail. But guess what? If you go out there, you're going to know every bolt and every screw in an Intech unit. He's going to explain how they work, why it works. Same thing with our friends at Lee's Auto Ranch with the little Max trailers down there and some of the teardrops that they have. There's a lot of those products being sold. In fact, there was at least two smaller companies at the open house this year that were brand new to the industry.
Now, let's not put Tim's way out on the Mohawk Trail. Tim is on this side of Greenfield. He's only a few miles from the Fitchburg area, right on Route 2. So when you say Mohawk Trail, you might think of where Longview started, up in North Adams.
That's a good point.
Not around there.
Eric,
so if you're coming up,
Eric did respond, says, I'm full-timing in a 20-foot Winnebago Travato KO. Biggest complaint is that it's poorly insulated. This summer has been tough with temperatures in the 90s up in Washington State. That's a good comment. Okay. Yeah.
And let's keep one thing in mind. Those air conditioners in most of the RVs, they're probably not going to, and again, depends on the size of the unit, but they're not going to give you much more than 20 degrees different from the outside air. They just don't have the power to do so. And that's why if you're going to be in hot weather areas, seek as much shade as possible, because you're not going to get it to 68 degrees when it's 90 outside.
Check out Walter. Wait till Toyota introduces its hitchless towing. What could possibly go wrong? Kind of like electric vehicles and electric trucks that are not quite ready for prime time yet. So I don't think the RV. It seems like every week we get another article about the lack of range that can't do it. And by the way, we will have Mike Sokol back at the Boston RV and Camping Show. And this year, I've asked Mike to put together an EV seminar on what consumers and what our fans should know about electric vehicles, both the cars and the trucks, but also how they relate to RVing. What if you hook up an Airstream trailer to it, what's it going to do? He's been in the process of doing a lot of checks and updating a lot of his standards and his training program. So he will be featured this year talking about electric vehicles and especially the electric trucks, which the manufacturers, for some reason, keep telling him they're going to get him one so that he can test it with trailers, and they just don't ever show up. I can't believe it's because they don't think it doesn't do what they say it's going to do, but they're afraid that Mike's going to show that right now it doesn't do what they say it's going to do.
I was just at a Ford dealership today talking to the owner, and I talked about interest in the Lightning. And they said interest is great, and those that have them say that they're very peppy and fast and blah, 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 blah. The unfortunate aspect of when you introduce a new product to the market is that you got to test it as to how it's going to be used. So if you test a Ford Lightning as a second car pickup truck to go to Walmart or go to Lowe's or Home Depot or your local hardware store, that's one thing. But when you test it with a travel trailer on the back, it's a totally different ballgame. And I will tell you this, as the owner of an electric vehicle, when I drove to Elkhart, it was in my electric vehicle. And going from Worcester to Albany is basically uphill for a good distance of the way, and my range was diminished considerably. However, coming back, when I'm going down that hill on the Mass Pike, that long hill that's got the runaway truck ramp, I gained 5 miles in range from that end of it. So keep in mind that with electric vehicles, they're going to be much more susceptible to headwinds and tailwinds and uphills and downhills than I think a gas-powered vehicle has been. So another thing to keep in mind.
Yep. So we'll get your education up on that. What else do we have here? 7:56. Holy Christmas.
Bob, you can't say Christmas. You might offend someone.
Holy December 25th. I don't know. That one flew. I thought we were still down around 15 minutes left to go. All right, let's kind of peruse those comments, and great comments.
Great show. You know what? I don't know if we do this enough, but we really need to thank this audience that stays with us week after week after week. We don't have a show without our audience. And I think this audience, and we had somebody on a couple weeks ago. Where was the guy from, the bicycle guy, the electric bike guy?
Eric Erickson? With the Ghost cycle. With the Ghost cycle.
The Ghost. Yeah. He mentioned to us after, he said, I've been on a lot of shows, but never a show that had such educated viewers. And we thank you. We don't have a show without you. So stay with us. And by the way, please like the show and share the show, because there's so many people that need the information, not that we give, but the information that you share, because you're more believable than we are. Actually, you're more believable than Zagami, but I'm right up there with believability with your audience. So with that being said,
all right. And if you have any ideas and different types of products that you'd like to see at the Boston show, we're going to start our sneak peeks probably November 1st, and they'll run every day between then and the show. But if there's particular products, let me know, and I'll talk to the dealers. We have no control. I want you to understand, in this, in a closing comment, but this happens every year, and we understand it, and we respect it. The place can only hold so many vehicles. Paragon rents concrete to the dealers. What they put on that concrete is their choice. We have no dictation. We have no control over what they have. So we'll have people come in and say, in a particular year, they'll say, I went to the show to see pop-ups. There were no pop-ups. Well, if pop-ups aren't selling that year, they're not going to be in the show. Some people go and say, well, I went to buy a diesel pusher and there was only one. Well, maybe that was what the dealer wanted to show, but he wanted to use the space for something else. Now, I can tell you this year that we will have more diesel pushers, because Longview RV is coming back into the show. They had some conflicts last year, and COVID was a crazy situation, but we've talked to Frank Roberts. Longview will be back in, and they have the Berkshire from Forest River. So we'll see that.
Let's mention one thing about the Boston show that is very important for this audience, that there is not an auto show the same weekend as our show. So you won't have to deal with hassles at the parking. You won't have to go to satellite parking areas. You won't have to park in Chestnut Hill and drive in. So you'll be able to park right at the facility. And we tell people, look, if you want to go to the show for 2 days, stay over at one of the hotels. There's great restaurants in Boston now. Make it a weekend. And, it's a long weekend anyway.
Yep.
So maybe hotels are cheaper on Sunday night than they are on Saturday night.
And that Seacoast area is like a little city unto itself. You're right. You come out of those tunnels and skyscrapers and multi-million-dollar condos and apartment buildings. And I don't know. I know Trader Joe's down there. I'm not sure if I think Whole Foods is supposed to go down there. And a ton of restaurants. I mean, you couldn't eat all the restaurants, but that whole area is developing very, very quickly. So,
if you're Uber sensitive and you're staying at a hotel there, an Uber ride over to the North End is just a short ride away.
Sure.
So we look forward to seeing you next week here, and also at the Boston show. So make your plans now, January 13 through 16. And I'm going to say it for the first time, 2023.
Right. All right. So we'll do our closing commercial, and then we'll have our closing video. We will see you next week. Send us your ideas on what you want to see in the show, and we'll work with you, because we want that show to be as big as, you know, it can possibly be, and give you a wide variety of product. Fair enough.
Have a great day, everybody.
RVing in New England is sponsored by our friends at Lee's Auto RV Ranch in Ellington, Connecticut. Conveniently located between Hartford, Connecticut and Sturbridge, Massachusetts, just off Route 84. Visit this family-owned dealership that sells new and pre-owned RVs, pre-owned pickup trucks for your new trailer or fifth wheel, and the latest in ATVs and powersports products. Now in their 28th year of serving outdoor enthusiasts throughout the Northeast, they offer a 28,000 square foot facility and a 50,000 pound Mohawk lift that can handle up to the largest diesel pusher motorhomes. Lee's also offers a full body shop and collision repair services. Visit Lee's Auto RV Ranch at 171 West Road, Ellington, Connecticut, or call them at 833-429-9397. Always online at www.leesautoranch.com.
This edition of RVing in New England was a presentation of the New England RV Dealers Association. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.